Welcome to another wonderful podcast, and I am looking to investigate what this lady is all about today. As always, I do not have a clue. Do you know what? I think my name should be Clueless Eli, because I don't have a clue where they come from, what they do, etc. But I prefer it like that because we have a proper conversation and not reading from a list of boring old questions. So, Tanya is her name, and we are going to find out what she's all about. So, Tanya, welcome. I can't explain. What is your surname, actually?
Gioia. So it's Italian, and phonetically spelled in English, it'd be Joya.
Gioia. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you see what I mean about me being Clueless Eli. There you go. Live and direct. I don't edit anything. It is what it is. But I think it's far more engaging like that. But Tanya, please go with the flow and let us know exactly what you do to help people as a successful business.
Absolutely. So what I do now is I support women who are struggling with folks with addiction. How that dovetails into dyslexia and ADHD is a lot of what people do is they will self-medicate the neurodivergent issues, and they will try and find answers on their own, especially if they don't know part of this is a neurodivergent issue. I mean, this word even has just become popular lately. So I'm not necessarily supporting the person with the addiction. I'm supporting the family, and especially moms, wives, sisters, grandmas who are supporting other people in their lives who are struggling with an addiction, often because, think of social anxiety, often because, hey, if I take a drink, I feel better. If I use this, I feel better. If I suck back into, workaholism or pornography or this, that, and the other, it's easier for me. Now, these are all numbing agents, but that's how I help people in the world.
Wow. So you're not helping the actual people, but the people that in their lives they touch. So as you said, people, okay, that's unusual. I've never heard it from that point of view. It's a specialized, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that do that. And that's wonderful. So what I'm now curious about is what made you take it from that stance? Why the people it ripples around? Why those people? What happened in the past for you to think, I really don't want to deal with the people that actually are addicted, but the family and the friends? What happened?
Well, I am one of those people. And then began to realize, so as we were talking beforehand, I was diagnosed with dyslexia a long time ago, before it was really supported, in 1991, and I was in college. So I was diagnosed with it, but what do you do about it? They sent me to some training. I looked at Where's Waldo's books. I looked at things to kind of help my vision get better, but there wasn't the whole scope of understanding of what it really affected when I was that age. I also was attracted to people who had addictions. And I didn't understand why, and I didn't understand what was happening there, but I was often attracted to both men and women who were loud and outgoing and funny. I didn't realize that that's part of the social anxiety that can come along with ADHD and dyslexia. I don't know that it was really out in the public that was there. I always felt safer with people who were like that. What I didn't realize was they were also probably covering this, and they just used some kind of substance or some other way to get themselves through this. Mm-hmm. So my own story is about being attracted to people who were not authentic and integrous in themselves. And as I began to learn more about this, I realized that everyone who behaves in that way needs somebody who is supporting them. Very rarely are they able to completely support their own lives and support themselves. And most people who are dealing with substance use disorder, pornography, workaholism, they're working, they're out in the public, they're functioning. 70% are functioning. They're not the people on the street. Very different people. They have families. They have community. They're part of a church. They're part of a social club. They're interacting, but but they're not really there. And the family, the community, the church, those places where we interact are the ones who can really speak into their lives, but they don't know enough to do it. They don't know what to say.
I'm curious to how were you so attracted to so many addicted people? You know, be it boyfriends, girlfriends, as you said, just general people. What made you just resonate and just get closer to this type of people? So why was you curious about that? Going back younger, there must have been something that made you rebel maybe towards that. What happened?
Like a lot of people who used to use the word codependent, enabling, we're not using that anymore. We're not labeling like that anymore. I wanted to rescue somebody. I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be needed. And if I could make you happy, then it became my job to make you happy. And so if I kept making you happy, then we could live happily ever after, right? It's a Cinderella story, isn't it?
Yeah. No, totally. All right. So what was making you so unhappy that you felt that, I'm going to have to? So let's think about what made you so happy and unhappy in life.
I didn't. So most of us don't realize that we're doing it, for one thing. So there's an interesting pattern. If we feel uncomfortable, we have flight, fight, or freeze, right? So when we feel uncomfortable, we can do one of those things. The person that I am wants to fix. So here's what we know about people who think outside of the box. Dyslexic, neurodivergent, ADHD. We think outside of the box. So sometimes we come up with these really great solutions and we get rewarded. So I'm attracted to people who are not handling their lives well. I can fix that, right? So say you haven't been paying your credit card, you need somebody to help you deal with all the backlog of all of this stuff. I'm really good at it. I get jazzed about it. So I help you, you reward me. So it's a performance love concept. You reward me for my performance. And I'm like, let's do that again. That feels good. So look at the addiction pattern in there. I am addicted to you, basically. I'm addicted to you rewarding me. What was the damage that had me do that? Who knows? But that pattern got set up to where, okay, I fixed the problem for you. Your life's not going well. I maintain this level of control. You reward me for this performance. I want more of that. It's like any kind of dopamine hit.
That's really interesting. So you've gone through these different relationships and you're getting older now. And so, yes, you are attracted to those addictive people, but there must have come a stage as you're going through those relationships where, you know, they're quite toxic. They're not really helping me. Or how did you feel about those relationships as you got older?
So not only are they toxic, I'm getting more and more toxic. So I am getting more and more controlling because my mode is, if you're okay, then I'm okay. It's my job to make you okay. So when I stop coming up with the solutions, or when you start maturing, because you know, Eli, as we get older, we start maturing. We start deciding what we like, what we don't like, where we're willing to get in with somebody, where we're not willing to get in with somebody. So if I can't fix the problem and I can't get the dopamine hit, what do? I create more drama. I create more drama. And then I create more drama because I need praise from you. And if that's not happening, I'm creating even more drama to make sure there's always a problem to fix. So guess who looks crazy? Not the one with the substance use disorder. Me.
Interesting. I like the way you think. You see things from a different point of view because obviously you lived from a different way. So you've gone through that. Did you educate yourself from a point of view of going through qualifications, etc., to do this, or was this purely life skills that you've gone through?
Oh, what a good question. I did both. So first of all, it starts out as kind of life skills of, okay, let's jump in Al-Anon. My partner was in AA. Let's do this together. Let's see what this has got. So this is a non-professional, but a group that has the 12 steps, has a lot of knowledge. We're going to look at it all as being the addiction issue. Well, those of us with dyslexia or ADHD know that, okay, if we take away whatever is soothing or numbing or medicating us, then we have to face life without that. How does that look? You know, how do I talk to people about being time blind? At first you can go, oh, well, she drank too much last night, or she overslept, or she did this. But what if I'm not doing that? What if I'm doing a healthy lifestyle, right? So we hop in these regular programs to start with. I also have a deep faith base. I'm taking this to my church. I'm taking this to my spiritual directors. I'm looking at all of these things. That wasn't enough. So I started reading anything I could get my hands on. I looked at Gabor Mate and his understanding of attachment theory. I start to do therapy myself, go through EMDR, get an International Coaching Federation certificate after 4 years of working through that. I have a master's degree in religious studies. I have all of this, and it really wasn't until the stuff with neurodivergence started coming out and getting clearer and clearer that I went, aha, not only am I struggling like this, but we know that some of this can be passed on to kiddos. My son's struggling with this. My other son, I've got one that's more of a hyper and one that's more of an inattentive. And so when you're looking at that, you're like, not only am I struggling, they're struggling. And how do I help them? So that's the real, besides getting all the training, everything that goes with that, to look at it as a mirror outside of yourself and go, oh, it's not just me doing this. They're doing it. How do I support them? And you have, I want to tell your audience, you have a lot of great people. I was thumbing through people who talk about their children and how they've been able to support them, and worksheets and check boxes and the whole, not only time blind, but if it's not out in front of me, it doesn't exist type idea. The messiness that comes with that, the hyper focus. I mean, we're amazing at hyper focus when it interests us.
No, you're totally right. I mean, that's one of the greatest skills, which makes us great leaders, partially because of that. You talk about your son's dyslexic. Now, before we go on to your son, actually, let's talk about your dyslexia. How enabling, if it was enabling, was it for you? Give us some examples with your dyslexia, how it was quite difficult for you from real terms.
So if you look, they noticed something in third grade. My D's and my B's were backwards. My 7s and my 4s were backwards. But again, we're talking at a time when this was not really recognized. So my parents were both educators. So what they did, they sat with me, they got me tutors. There wasn't really even independent learning programs like we would have now in the States. That wasn't there, but they were educators and came from educators. So they just surrounded me and said, we'll help you, we'll help you. So a lot of what came in was, again, that hyper focus. I'm like, I'll just work harder. I'll just work harder. And I had enough support that I could do that. I went to college, went to a top level Ivy League school for graduate school. When I hit graduate school, or just as I was leaving college, the 4-year degree, somebody was bright enough, and maybe it was just, more knowledge coming in to say, hey, can we test you for this? I'm like, okay. And so I did some remedial work. How much that really helped, I don't know, but I had already had, and I've seen this in a lot of neurodivergence, I'd already had this work ethic instilled that it's just going to take me longer. And what I did through college for the papers that I wrote was I hired editors. So if you were to read a letter of mine, the content is good, but there's missing words, especially these A's, ands, those types of things. So I talk about it like a Mad Lib. It's a fill in the blank. You will get the content, but these little connector words, I don't see them. I don't see that they're there. So I hired people to edit for me. This is where the problem solving comes in. There's a way to get around this. It's like a river. I can go over it, under it, through it, around it. I'm going to make my way. what that also instilled, this is a character trait that is not so pretty, is either help me or get out of my way. And that is really damaging in intimate relationships.
So were you always with that kind of mentality, help me or get me out of my way, or did something happen for you to switch and think, I'm going to have this attitude so then I'm focused and I can achieve what I need to achieve in my life?
What a good question, Eli. I discovered that in some deep therapy. I don't know when that appeared, but it certainly was there by probably late high school for sure. Very competitive. If I got a 98 on a paper, where did the other 2 points go? How do I make this work? Which I took into relationships. So I'm not just, I like you, I care about you. I'm like, how do we make this work? How do we talk about this? What books do we need to read? What therapy do we need to go to? Where do we need to make this work? We can make this exceedingly wonderful, beautiful, great. No man wants to be attacked in that way. What it says is instead of saying, look, I'm struggling with me being enough, what it says is you're not enough. And that's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I've applied this and it's worked. You know, academically it's worked, but when I apply it over here, it doesn't work very well.
Interesting. Okay, so when you applied this in your relationship with men, was it a situation where you would have instant results from the point of view where those relationships wouldn't last? Or did those men started to accept who you were and just went with the flow and then adapted to you?
That is a good question. You'd almost have to ask them. In the sense of it's all good, it's all working, it's fine in the beginning, but then something would kick in and I'd say, okay, the bar's here, but I want the bar to be higher. And then I want the bar to be higher. And I think we can do better. And at that point, whatever that was, 2 to 3 years in, whatever's going on, they'd be like, I'm tired. I don't want to have to work this hard at this. Because everything in my life, remember, I come from this, if you work hard enough, if you communicate enough about it, if you have enough community, it will be okay. You can figure it out. Some things just need to rest.
So you needed to learn that and you adapted as you went along, or you haven't really?
It was more when I had kids. Okay. Because, you know, when you're dealing with a fully formed another adult, you're like, come on, you can do this. Get in here with me and make this work. But when they hand you that baby, you're like, okay, I have to slow down. And I was 35 for my first kid. So I had more wisdom than energy. And had to slow down, had to go at their pace. There wasn't, you know, telling a toddler to hurry up is like telling him, just slow down, honey. It's okay. Right? They don't know the concept of time. So it was really with my kids that I began to, here's the issue. I wasn't giving myself grace. So I couldn't give what I didn't have. I had to begin to accept that I needed grace. There were things that just were out of my control and I wasn't going to be able to control them. But when you have that baby and you look at him and you say, I want to love you the very best I know how to love you, right? That meant changing, looking at myself and saying, okay, I need to have grace. You know, maybe we're not going to get to the grocery store today. Maybe it is going to be macaroni and cheese and peas for dinner. That's the best I've got right now. So that began to change things. And then when I realized, this is the scary part, Eli, this wasn't just me with romantic relationships. When you begin to realize that this kind of pervasive thing affects everybody that you interact with, right? Then I had to begin to look at my work relationships. I had to begin to look at my friendships. Where was I just in drive mode instead of going, hey, I like you just because I like you. And you like me just because you like me. And maybe I don't show up on time. And maybe you forgot to bring the salad. We're going to be okay. And that's what the kids taught me was they can't do things that they're not ready to do. And somewhere in there, I learned this drive piece that I could push people so far. Yeah. But then at some point they turned around and they said, can't do that anymore. It's just too much.
So have you changed the habits of a lifetime?
For the most part. So there's a saying in the addiction world of hungry, angry, lonely, tired, halt. So if I am hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, I may revert.
Okay.
But God has been very vocal with me. I was at an event on Saturday, and part of it for me is my tone. You may be able to hear it. I was at an event on Saturday that was really well run. And it was an all day long event in a big arena with lots of people. So for anybody with ADHD, that's a lot of stimulus, lots of things going on, which I thrive on, but I also get overwhelmed by. And I said to a young man, I said, well, this is really confusing. I was supposed to put my bag over here, and then I was supposed to put it over here. And I said it in a not so nice tone. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to put my bag over here and then over here. And I don't, I'm feeling chaotic because I don't know what to do. And I came back to him and I said, look, I really need to apologize. I know you were just doing your job, and I know it was really a tone thing for me. I really feel like this event is really well run. I got overwhelmed. So what I want to do when I do it wrong is to come back to that person and say, hey, I have responsibility in this too. My tone got out of hand. You're doing a great job. I got overwhelmed. And that for me, with the ADHD and the dyslexia, has been the biggest recognition. And I'm now, my 19-year-old's out of the house, but I've got to deal with my 17-year-old. I said, look, I'm really struggling with tone. And my coach is saying, I need to work on my tone. Can we do a pact that when I say something that feels, it's not the words that are off, it's the tone and how I come at you. When I say something like that, could we have a code word like, hey, mom, that's a little bit tonal, Could we have a code word? So I'm trying to create a feedback loop that gets that to me quicker, so that I know what's really going on, Eli, is I'm having some fear or some anxiety, and I'm pitching it that way because I don't know what to do with it. Or we're back to the original, help me or get out of my way. So I'm trying to create a feedback loop that lets me know when I'm behaving that way. Now, if we put that in the addiction realm of families who are supporting folks who are struggling with addiction, they're normally feeling fear, uncertainty, overwhelm. And if they can begin to develop feedback loops of saying, okay, I'm behaving in a really unloving way. Maybe I need to set a boundary, but I don't have to be unloving about the boundary that I set.
Well, no, I see that. And I see that for sure. So, this situation with your son. Now, you said he had dyslexia and ADHD. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we see how it affected you. Now, does it affect him in a similar way, or is it affected him in a different way?
Well, my parents did what they could, and they surrounded me with that community that helped me really strive, right? Mm-hmm. I live in a state, unfortunately, that doesn't really, in the public school support, they don't really recognize dyslexia. I can't believe that that's true, but that is true.
Even today.
So when I went to have him diagnosed, or I asked him, he was mid-teens at this point. I said, would you like to go and hear what the person would say, whether you have ADHD or not? I invited him to participate rather than having him diagnosed because he was at an age of decision. So that went really well. Then we went and we had the interview with her. And one of the most precious things she said that we still use today, she was not a neurodivergent, which was interesting to me, was she said, how many thoughts are you thinking right now? And he said, I don't know, 6 or 7. And she's like, I'm only thinking 1. That's one of the differences. And it cued him in right there. But then she said, your brain is a magnificent instrument. It's like if I'm driving a Prius, you're driving a Lamborghini. You can do so many things with your brain. It's more about how you harness it and choose to use it than it is that it's a problem. It's not a problem. It is only that you need to learn how to drive it. That was fabulous.
That's well said.
My son is very hands-on and kinesthetic.
Yes.
Loves that type of work.
Uh-huh.
And so when she put it in that analogy, I can always come back to that with him and say, hey, are you struggling to drive your Lamborghini right now? How can I help you drive your Lamborghini right now? Because what we'll see is he will go up, and then he tends to get very physical. We saw this when he was a little boy too, he was kind of seeing with his hands. He was touching a lot of things. All that is grounding, right? Mm-hmm. So how do I help him ground when he's struggling to drive his Lamborghini? Is that take your shoes off? Do you need to jump up and down? One of the jokes we've had between us is we make very strange noises. But that's very grounding for him. When he can let those sounds out and feels comfortable doing that, that will re-ground him. And you've got a very intelligent young man. What's showing up for him that did not show up for me as much, and it may be being female, I'm not sure, social anxiety. The being in a room of a lot of people, like the event that I went to in the arena and all those kinds of things, he was invited. He wouldn't have gone. It would be way too much. Even though he was invited, he could have met Tim Tebow, one of the major Broncos players. There was a lot there for him, but it was too much. That and walking into a situation that doesn't feel safe, and that could be anything from a new situation of a group of people to even if he feels like folks are going to be upset or it's again that sense of control of if I feel like I haven't performed well and they're going to say something negative to me and I'm going to feel bad about myself, I would rather just avoid that situation.
I see. So with all this experience that you have growing up and these situations with the ADHD and dyslexia, your son, this has come about that's helping you in your business because obviously you have a different point of view. Is that how you feel?
Yes. So I thought, Eli, when I started this was about serving families who are struggling with folks with addiction. I thought that's what it was about. As I got deeper into it and I'm coming into a more clear understanding of this is about looking at how does a person with all of us have situations that are going on spinning around us, right? But if I am spinning inside myself and abandoning myself, it's very hard for me to offer support to somebody else without doing some really bizarre things, right? Or putting myself completely under the bus, or we've all seen caregivers who give away everything and then there's nothing left for them, both financially, emotionally, resource-wise, all those types of things. So the work that I now see that I'm doing is, what is my lane? What is my responsibility? And how do I help others learn their responsibility? So we could couch it in boundaries, but I always like to couch it in love. I can always show love. I may have to use my no, and I may have to withstand you saying, oh, you don't love me. But love is not about performance. Love is about how can I share compassion with you? So compassion means co-suffering. Maybe my boy's spinning out of control. How do I hold space for him? How do I be there even though he's spinning out of control? On the other hand, if he's going to really say ugly things to me and swear at me and give me, just some really unpleasant things, then I probably need to remove myself at that point because I'm not helping him by saying this is an okay way to treat me.
No, totally right. No two ways about it. So just let me know, within your business, what type of people do you help? So you do one-to-ones, I'm sure. Do you do groups? Do you do them online? Do you do courses? What options are there to help anybody that needs to be helped?
Thank you for asking. So I'm a Christian-based business. I focus on women. I do a Grace and Recovery program, which is a group program for 12 weeks. And we walk through who you are, your identity. How can you restabilize yourself so that you can help the person who is struggling? Oftentimes that caregiver is so depleted that they are doing as much harm as they're doing good. Another thing that I do is I do one-on-ones as well. And then right now we're getting ready to run the Blessed Family Recovery Summit, which is Where is God in the Midst of Addiction? And I have 16 speakers. That's going to go off October 24th. I have 16 speakers talking about their experience. They come from different backgrounds, different places. Some of them have walked through the addiction experience. Some of them have been in families. Some of them have come at it from a pastoral care situation. And we're talking about addiction as a numbing agent trying to heal some kind of pain, because people use whatever they're using because it works, not because it doesn't work. And so we're looking at very specific understandings and ways to help the family. Because here's the statistics, Eli. This is what is so cool. It used to be that we said, family, just go over here. We're going to deal with this, whoever we are, and you need to go over there. Statistically, what we know is if the family says, hey, I want to learn too. I know that I have some responsibility here. I didn't cause it and I can't cure it, but I am contributing, and I can contribute positively or negatively, because what's the opposite of addiction? Connection. So if the family can remain connected, even at the lowest level of, hey, I'd like to take you to dinner, maybe you can't live with me, or can I keep texting you and telling you that I love you? You know, those types of things, even at the lowest level, that person who is struggling has the best shot for long-term recovery.
I see that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to put a line in the sand, and we'll have to say thank you, Tanya, for that beautiful information that you've given us. And your story is amazing. So really appreciate the time you've given us.
Well, thank you, Eli. Thank you for having me on. I love this live format. And to anybody watching this, he has so much power-packed stuff with a lot of people who have great applicable tips. The main, not just tips, but strategies. So grab a podcast.
Yeah, without a doubt. So how do they contact you?
So you can find me mostly at Sober on Purpose. So I have a podcast myself, and that is more about purpose. And then TanyaGioia.com. And then the summit is the Blessed Family Recovery Summit. If you look that up online, I am running everything online, and I would love to speak to you. You are not powerless. There's so much out there that you can take hold of, and there's so much hope for change. And that's what you're doing, Eli. That's what you're doing with your channel, is bringing us hope for things that used to scare us.
Tell me about it. That's both of our agendas, I think, and that's the what makes us happy. So what we will do, listeners, I will put the information down to make life easier, so you can click away, copy and paste, so you can contact her, so where she can help you with anything to do with addiction in the formats that she says, and click away, have that conversation with her, and you can't go wrong. In the meantime, listeners, sayonara.